Looking back on the week that was and forward to the week ahead. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwain McFarland.
All across the fantasy universe, welcome to week 14 and welcome to the Fantasy Football Hustle, powered by Pro Football Focus. I'm your host, Brian Drake, joined as always by the analytical assassin. It's PFF.com senior fantasy analyst, Dwain McFarland. And folks, do you hear it? We're knocking on the door right now of must-win weekend in fantasy football. Whether you're securing a bye or you're desperate to get in the playoffs, this weekend in fantasy football is the most intense, most crucial of the season. Everything builds to week 14, and we must be prepared. To do so, we lean on Dwain's Utilization Report, live over at PFF.com. His unparalleled data and player analysis is going to guide you to make the best informed decisions on game day. And of course, go over to PFF.com, use promo code HUSTLE, save 25% off any PFF subscription. You're going to get the betting content. You're going to get the locked articles, the projections, all the stuff you need to have to make an informed decision. It's all there at PFF.com with promo code HUSTLE. That aside, Mr. McFarland, welcome in, my friend. Are you ready for what is the most stressful, I think, week in fantasy football?
I'm ready. I think my most stressful week already started, like last week, because most of my leagues playoffs already have started, besides like my home leagues. So last week was like, had to get lineups right. So, but yeah, I'm ready. Why not? It's football. We love football.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, got that going. We're ready to rock and roll now. Remember to follow the show on Twitter at FF Hustle. I'm at Drake Fantasy. Dwain is, of course, at Dwain McFarland. Go over to ViridianGlobal.com. Look under the Football Collective and check out Fantasy Football Hustle. Get some Fantasy Football Hustle swag for the holidays, baby. Winter hat. You want a t-shirt, get a little stocking stuffer. Tell your wife, hey, this is what I want for Christmas. I want a Fantasy Football Hustle t-shirt. And of course, you catch me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, hosting Pro Football Focus with Andrew Erickson, Saturdays 3 to 5, Sundays 7 to 9, and Thursday nights. If you're looking for something to do, come hang out with me, Dwain, and Ian Harditz. It's a Twitter Spaces event. We do it 7 o'clock on the PFF Twitter handle. That's a lot of fun. You can ask us questions, tell us what you're drinking, shoot the breeze. It's real laid back.
My favorite in that is Ian just kind of like low-key giggling in the background. Like as people ask questions, you just hear Ian go,
yeah, he's always like straight from the gym or drunk or high or whatever he's up to over there. Like he's having a blast. And like the best is the people. You know, here on this show, we love all our folks on YouTube or ask us questions and Twitch, but there you're talking live to us. So there's kids crying in the background, some guys in the mall, people are drinking at a bar. It's off the chain. So folks,
off the chain, Drake.
Yeah. If you grew up where I grew up, you know, you said off the chain a lot, but week 14, you'd think, all right, we got a full locked and loaded roster. Well, not so fast. We still have 4 buys to deal with this week, Dwain. The Colts, the Dolphins, my Eagles, and the Patriots all on bye this week. So you're going to have to maneuver that.
I have 7 championship games this weekend, and 5 of them are against JT managers who have no JT. Good for me.
Yeah, man. Hey, you know,
the JT league drafters, like they're all in there, man.
This is what you guys got to watch out for too. If you're in a home league and guys have tight rosters, imagine this. You could see people dropping Patriots defense, Nick Folk. You could see Jason Sanders or the Dolphins defense getting dropped. You know, pay attention to these things. Good players are going to get dropped here because folks have to make quick decisions.
Any good Eagles going to get dropped, right?
Well, there has to be a good Eagle to get dropped. So I don't know, Gardner Minshew, maybe.
Yeah, their defense really came through for me. I picked their defense up like 3 weeks ago, thinking, "Oh man, Eagles, I'll just be set." Like, you know, it was probably 2 weeks ago, and now, yeah, it was bad.
How about Gardner Minshew, man, showing up to the stadium looking like he's on freaking Top Gun?
Minshew never fails to disappoint, does he? Now he's the key for Minshew is now he's got to follow it up. Gardner's a great opening act. Now let's see if he can also handle the encore.
No, the Eagles are on bye. When Hurts is ready the following week, I think Minshew's back to the bench.
Yeah, so it was the perfect show for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell you what, I think Dallas Goedert and the receivers were kind of like, "Holy shit, this guy can actually throw the ball accurately."
Except Devonta Smith. This is now back-to-back weeks. Devonta Smith has 4 total catches over the last 2 weeks. Like, he's not even startable, I don't think, in the fantasy playoffs. I have him on a team where I'm looking at the playoffs. I got to start guys like him or Jerry Jeudy. I'm petrified of these guys.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting Devonta Smith on that one, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, somebody dropped Jarvis Landry, making a quick beeline for him. Anyways, so the first few minutes here of the show, I kind of want to hit some quick waiver wire ads and just get a quick thought from you, Dwayne, on these guys at the quarterback position, because really, if you're a Jalen Hurts owner, you had to fill in for him last week. So you needed to find somebody. Maybe it was Tua, but let me run through a few of these guys.
With Big Ben in 2 leagues and won both, Drake.
Look at you. You might be doing it again this week.
Yeah, he has to start again. The cool thing I think I used him in 3 leagues. Twice, though, he was stacked with Deontay, so that was the key.
Let's start right there. Big Ben plays Thursday night against the Vikings. Over the last 3 weeks, Ben's averaging 38 attempts a game. In that same stretch, the Vikings are allowing the second most passing yards in the NFL and the most touchdown passes. Could be a sneaky spot. I don't know how much you like him as a streamer this week.
I mean, it's a break glass in case of emergency. When I did it, it was in leagues where there was nothing left. Like there were 3 or 4 options. Like it was Baker Mayfield, Ben, Bridgewater was there. So I got lucky and chose. I didn't really want any of them. So, I mean, you would have to be in a really deep league. And the leagues I'm talking about, like once players get dropped past a certain spot, like you can't pick them. You can't pick those players up anymore. Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks aren't playing in those types of leagues. So there's going to be something better than Ben. But I mean, I have Ben in my 4th tier of quarterbacks, in my first run of my ranks. So he's setting quarterback 20 or so right now. So there's still other players, that I would rather play over him, like Heineke. I would still play Cam Newton, assuming that we know that he's going to play. I would play him over him. Same tier with Ben. I've got like Garoppolo, Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater down below him, slightly above him, Ryan Tannehill, assuming we get Julio Jones back.
Yeah, and we'll get into Julio in a little bit. Taysom Hill, I think, folks, only owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues, coming off a 4-interception week with a busted-up finger. We still love. If he's out there, I think he's the play against this pathetic Jets team, just because we don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to play. So he's still kind of the Saints' leading rusher. He's their best running back at this point. So if Taysom's out there, would you agree, Dwayne, he's the play?
I mean, if you're talking about him versus like Garoppolo and, Trevor Lawrence and stuff like that, I'm fine with Taysom. The finger scares me. Like he looked terrible anyway.
Yeah.
So if I'm playing against the Saints and now it is the Jets, I would literally load everything up. I may not even cover your receivers. I may just be like, look, it'd be almost like treating them the way the Bills should have treated, the Patriots last night. Like no one's going to throw the ball. So with Taysom, I think I like his rushing upside, but I feel like there's not a lot of meat left on the bone passing, because he already sucks and now his fingers hurt. So I'm concerned that he's probably not going to be able to keep this up. I have him also in tier 4.
I don't know. Call me crazy. I am kind of in on Cam Newton this week. He was dreadful.
I have Cam above Taysom for sure.
Yeah. So they fire their OC here in the bye week and just give a gift back to college football. And now they're going to face this Falcons team who's given up the second most points to opposing QBs. Cam's a home favorite against a bad defense. I don't know. I think he's going to get it done this week. I mean, if I'm looking for upside and I don't have Jalen Hurts this week, and I kind of got to win and get in, I mean, Cam's going to give you the greatest upside of all these guys.
Yeah, and Cam can actually throw. Like, yes, he will have bad games, but he's better than Taysom Hill. So, I mean, you have DJ Moore, you've got, Robbie Anderson can still stretch the field. I know Robbie hasn't been good this year, but yeah, I like Cam Newton because I think he can do more in the air, or he has the upside to do more in the air against Atlanta. And he gives you the same type of rushing upside that you get. You could argue Taysom, is a little more of a rusher than Cam at this point, but like Cam, is handling over 30% of the team's designed rushing attempts. Like it's hard to really want more than that. And that's about where Taysom is at as well. So I feel good about Newton because I know he's healthy. Again, like he runs the risk of getting benched. But again, it was his second game. They were playing, against tough man coverage with corners that are really coming on with the Dolphins in that last game. Had have to listen to, the coach this week, who's probably never going to tell us really for sure who's playing, but it sounds to me like it's going to be Newton. So I have Cam Newton 13 right now in my ranks.
Wow. And the last guy would be Taylor Heineke going up against your Cowboys. Tougher matchup, but I think this game could kind of shoot out a little bit. So Heineke, a little threat with his legs. He did lose Logan Thomas. I think in terms of being a pure quarterback of all these guys, I think he's it's weird to say, but I think he's the best of the bunch. But he could also give you a 12-point game.
Yeah. Heineke's fine. Like, you could put him above Cam, and somebody's saying Cam is the same inaccurate as Taysom. No, he's not. Taysom's like a high school quarterback. Like, it's terrible. I know Cam's struggling, but we've seen Cam do it in the past. And I'm not trying to say Cam is the most accurate passer, but I take him over Taysom Hill in an accuracy contest all freaking day long.
If I break anything during the show, folks, it's because Syracuse is playing Villanova on the screen right off the side here. I'm staring at Dwayne and I'm staring at Jim Boeheim. So whenever you're listening to this, later in the week, you're like, who cares? I already know the results. But, we tape this thing 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So there's some quarterback stuff for you. If you're looking to stream a defense, guys, all right, here's a couple options for you because, we want to win. We want to get into the playoffs. Seattle, they're at Houston. They're going to be starting Davis freaking Mills, okay? Tennessee is home against the Jags coming off a bye. The Saints are at the Jets. And the Chargers are at home against the Giants and Mike Glennon. If you want to plan ahead and people drop the Dolphins, they're going to play the Jets next week. And also next week, the 49ers get the Falcons. So just food for thought, defenses matter. And we saw defense matter in the Monday night contest. Nobody outcoaches Bill Belichick, Dwayne. Nobody. And we saw the Patriots throw the ball 3 times. They didn't even need to throw it 3 times. I wish Belichick would have not thrown it at all. That would have been the freaking best. But the big story for fantasy coming out of that game is the health of Patriots running back Damian Harris, who basically won the game on one long run and sunk one of my fantasy seasons. His hammy flared up, leading to Ramondre Stevenson handling 24 carries. Again, Patriots are on bye this week. But if Stevenson is out there and he's only owned in 61% of Yahoo leagues, this guy, Dwayne, could be a league winner if Harris has to miss some time. Scoop his ass up.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing with Stevenson is we know that he's part of the rotation no matter what. So there's no way you get a 0 return. But on the upside, he either grows his role, A, or B, Harris is still battling the hamstring injury after the bye week, or it reflares up after the bye week. And so we know how these soft tissue things can be tricky. So for me, I love Stevenson. I mean, if he's sitting on your wire, like, just put it all on him. Like, that's what I would do. Like, as long as you can still do like $0 bids, or you have periods where you can just be first come, first serve, like, just do everything you can to get Stevenson onto your roster to see what happens for the playoffs if he happens to still be there, which probably you're playing in a smaller mid-sized league if that's the case. All deep formats, like, Stevenson's been gone like for, since like the first month.
Well, a guy who might be out there, and speaking of another team heading into their bye, my Eagles, they whooped the Jets without Jalen Hurts, but Miles Sanders left the game as he's oft to do this season. Nobody is running more than the Eagles over the past month plus. My recommendation, Dwayne, is for folks to stash Jordan Howard, who's going to come back after the bye. He was really the engine leading the way for this resurgent Philly offense, and if Sanders was to miss any time, you're going to see Howard with a boatload of carries against teams like the Giants and the football team, and he could just eat into that role anyways and become a 50-50 split with Sanders and maybe get some work on the goal line. What do you think about Jordan Howard in this Eagles run game?
I think he's fine. I mean, I'm not like crazy about it just because it's such a committee, right? We were hoping Sanders could maybe take over the lead role, but we knew it would still be a committee. So I know no matter what, right, Boston Scott will be involved. Kenneth Gainwell will be involved. Jalen Hurts is going to be running the ball. I mean, the beauty of the Eagles is what you just mentioned. Like, they run the ball more than any other NFL team besides the 49ers on a percentage, right, of plays basis. They might be third now, but they're in the top 3 for sure. And if you look at them over the last several weeks, like, they have all these games where they've run the ball like 55%, 60%. It's insane stuff. So there's a bigger pie. So yeah, I mean, I like Jordan Howard. He'll be a mid-range RB3 for me once he's back. But it's hard for me to really see him being more than that. And I still think he will be boom bust kind of player. He's going to need to definitely hit with a touchdown to pay off for you, because he was never at a point where he was getting 50 or 60% of the carries. Like, it was 20%, 30%, but he was getting the high leverage touches down inside the 5 quite often, which sometimes it was just like luck of the drive that you were in. But if there is a short down and distance back on the team, like I would definitely lean to Jordan Howard. So I think if you're in a deeper format, and you need to have, maybe you got 2 backs you like, and you've got another one that's just could fill in, and you want one more with some, potential to fill in and maybe give you some upside. I think Jordan Howard fits that kind of, bill. I think it's just going to be, and the Eagles better than me, Drake. So maybe I'm wrong. I always try to put myself through the thought process of putting a player in the lineup. That doesn't make or break whether you pick them up, because lots of things can happen, right? Injuries, all sorts of situations could arise that make the player's value increase. But like when I think about it, just off the cuff, like coming out of the bye and I need to put Jordan Howard in my lineup, I doubt I could do it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's one of those things where if you're in a real deep league and maybe you need a guy as a flex, or you made the playoffs and you've got total skank at running back. But I think he's a good goal line back. And again, you've got Jalen Hurts dealing with an ankle issue, so maybe he doesn't want to run as much. Who knows, maybe if Gardner Minshew gets another start, we'll see. It's the guy can't freaking finish a game, so we'll see what happens. Another guy that can't seem to stay in the lineup is Elijah Mitchell in San Francisco. Their running back situation's in flux every other week. Now, Mitchell's in the protocol, which is, I hope he's not that serious. Again, a concussion is a brain bruise, so everything about that is serious. I know in football, we kind of almost like gloss over it now, like, oh, it's concussion. Pfft, he's fine. He'll be back tomorrow. But, I mean, he returned to the game after going out initially and being checked. So that's what leads me to think hopefully he'll be okay. But Dwayne, we could see a lot of JaMycal Hasty taking a larger role, because Jeff Wilson Jr. is having an issue with his surgically repaired knee, and Trey Sermon's on IR. There's no Deebo Samuel here to take carries. So it's a situation to monitor, as you could have a guy, JaMycal Hasty, carrying a 3-down role against Cincinnati this weekend.
Yeah, Hasty's the player that I'm picking up everywhere I can, and if I just have to release him later in the week, I will. And it's just because it's crunch time, and if it worked out where all of a sudden you're not going to have Elijah Mitchell this weekend, which, we don't know that. He could very easily play at this point. We're early in the week. The Jeff Wilson flare-up of the knee thing sounds like something that could require a little time off for him. I don't know that we'll get a for sure answer from Kyle Shanahan anytime before Saturday, but we'll watch the practice reports. But yeah, I mean, if all of a sudden those 2 players are out and Hasty is the last back standing and they just have to bring somebody off the street and use Kyle Juszczyk, I think, you're going to be bored. You're going to be borderline RB1 just because of the scheme that you get to play in. And we've seen Hasty last year, have a nice fantasy game. He works and he's good in the passing game too. So I think, I'll probably have him if that happened. Right now I've got Elijah Mitchell in my top 10 backs for the week. If it were to shift to Hasty, he'd still probably be in like my top 14 or 15.
I'm just trying to read here from one of the San Francisco beat writers about Jeff Wilson Jr. surgically repaired knee flared up on him. He played 2 offensive snaps. All right, not a whole lot to add there. Just follow along with us, at FF Hustle, at Dwain McFarland, at Drake Fantasy. We always like to retweet fun stuff and news when we see it.
They're so thin that could be like an emergency active kind of thing, like what we saw with Daryl Henderson.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
big time. Yeah, and same thing with Boston Scott this week. I know people had to start.
Yeah,
him, and they were.
It's funny you saw that twice. Really, you had 2 guys up, Boston Scott and Daryl Henderson. They were really just there just in case everything went wrong.
Yeah, but hey, let's add more games to the season. Why not? We've got enough players out here. I don't want to advocate this. I don't even know why I wrote this down, to be honest. But I can't, in good conscience, say, "Hey, go look and try to add Carlos Hyde." But
you wrote this down.
Yes. But we're trying to help people out here.
Wrote that.
There could be a large opportunity here for him if the team shuts down James Robinson. These coaches are morons in Jacksonville. They're running Robinson out of here, who's obviously hurt, putting him on the field, taking him off. They don't know what's going on. So if Urban Meyer isn't getting lap dances down there in Jacksonville, we know he's not game planning. So I think there's a legit shot. Carlos Hyde.
He's always game planning. You have to figure out how to get Laquan Treadwell targets. Jamal Agnew, these are pressing issues, Drake. You got to figure out what player that everyone's forgotten about can you pull out of a hat and put them in front of your favorite player, Drake, Laviska Shenault. Like, I think that's basically the puzzle each week that Urban Meyer's trying to solve.
I am happy that he keeps shutting down Laviska Shenault with random guys like Freddie Mitchell.
It really does.
He's going to get signed next week.
Like, I can't believe how much joy it brings you.
It really does, because everybody was on Laviska Shenault except yours truly. And again, I'm nobody in fantasy. Nobody, gives a crap what I have to say. But
you're nobody. You're on SiriusXM every weekend. I don't know many other people doing that.
My co-host Andrew, so too now.
Yeah, I do.
So I don't know. If you're desperate, hey, it is what it is. I got another desperation play for you for a deep league. Again, we're just trying to cover all the bases here, folks. I've been touting Scotty Phillips from the Texans for a while here. Now, the Texans are going to take a look at Davis Mills going forward at quarterback. I would not be shocked if now Phillips is activated off the IR and he is the guy they roll with in the backfield. Why not? Your team's awful. Everybody in this front office is going to be gone next year. Your coaching staff's going to be gone. So see what you got with some of these young guys. Scotty Phillips is out there again. I'm not giving you any kind of I got a tip. Just saying he could be a guy getting meaningful touches down the stretch, and, we're chasing volume.
That's the problem, though. There's no volume to be had in the Texans backfield. It's a four-way committee, and their offense sucks. So even if Scotty, Phillips is like a world beater, which I don't think he is, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't follow along with. But hey, each his own.
Yeah, hey, you never know. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to the wire.
Definitely hey, you never know.
You never know. It's fantasy football 2021. I mean, there is craziness going on out here. Adam Thielen went down. Speaking of crazy, that stinks, and he's not going to play Thursday night against the Steelers. Enter our old pal KJ Osborne. Remember him from earlier in the season? He saw 7 targets on Sunday, Dwayne, and he's likely to play basically every passing down snap for Minnesota. What are your expectations of Osborne going forward?
I've got him as a wide receiver 4 that could give you wide receiver 3 production. He could potentially do more. Like, he's had a couple of big games this season, but none of it's been on really demanding high target volume, right? Targets per route run have not been his thing. Now, to his credit, he's playing with 2 funnels, right? With Adam Thielen and with Justin Jefferson. But at the same time, it's kind of you got to prove it to me kind of thing. But I think wide receiver 4 territory, he could earn his way higher if Thielen, does happen to miss more time. It's a high ankle, so we'll have to wait and see how that ultimately turns out for Thielen. But I would say he's wide receiver 4, kind of boom bust, really is the way I look at it. I'm hoping he gives me wide receiver 3. He could maybe squeak into wide receiver 2, but too early for me to get him anywhere higher than that for Osborne. But yeah, he was out there 94% of the routes last week, 16% targets per route run, mostly underneath intermediate stuff, 8 out of 7.4. So I think it will really probably be Justin. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's going to lead the way, and you'll see Osborne get a little more. I think you're also going to see Tyler Conklin get a little bit more. We'll talk about him in a minute when we get to the tight ends. And then you'll just see the backs a little more involved. I think it's more of a, hey, we're going to replace Thielen by getting the ball to all these different players.
Question from our YouTube chat. John asks, is it worth picking up Osborne if you have Justin Jefferson? I don't know if you're looking at.
I don't see a situation where I'm going to want to play both of those players unless it would be kind of a name who your current other receivers are that you would be starting. But I would rather avoid that scenario if I can.
Let me get another quick question in here. 10-team home league with short benches, standard scoring. This is right up your alley, Dwayne.
Yes.
Someone dropped Elijah Moore. Should I drop Devonta Smith for him? Yes.
Yes.
So that actually leads me. I'll move some things around here. I want to get your thoughts on this. You had an interesting tweet today where you put out a question asking which wide receiver would you be more comfortable starting rest of the season between DK Metcalf and Elijah Moore. So I'd love you to expand on this for us. Moore's been on fire the last few weeks, and DK and the Seattle offense couldn't start a fire with a box of matches and a gallon of lighter fluid. So what was the reaction to that tweet, and kind of where do you see this going forward?
I don't know where it's at right now. Earlier it was 70-30. Hang on, I'm pulling it up. As far as folks leaning to Moore, which kind of, surprised me. 68.8 Elijah Moore rest of the season. People would prefer to have in a season-long format. This is not DFS versus DK Metcalf. So Metcalf really has some better matchups, on the horizon. the reason I chose these two players, I mean, obviously I was doing a lot of work on Elijah Moore this morning, but I was just looking through my ranks and looking for names that I felt were kind of close. And it's really, they both are playing in offenses we don't love, right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference to me, though, is the Jets have more passing volume. When you look at Seattle, like now they got things going a little bit last week, but are you going to trust one game out of all the games this season? They've only had one game the whole season where they actually possessed the ball over 50% of the time, and it was this last weekend. So when I look at DK Metcalf, I just look at an anemic offense that's starving their whole team for volume. You got a coach that's willing to run the ball more. You got an offensive coordinator that's completely lost, that has no clue what to do on how to use his players. You've got Tyler Lockett competing with Metcalf for looks. So really the biggest positive you're looking at is Russell Wilson is better than Zach Wilson. But at the same time, we know that fantasy quarterbacks, although they matter, they don't matter as much unless your quarterback is just absolutely abysmal. And so the way I look at it is Elijah Moore's getting more targets than DK Metcalf, and they're both explosive players. Elijah Moore is the centerpiece of the Jets offense at this point, for better or for worse. Zach Wilson plays good, Zach Wilson plays bad. Yes, that definitely limits him. But, this is not the same Seahawks that we've seen in the past. So I considered them, I have them right next to each other in my ranks this week. That's really kind of why I asked the question, because I have them in the same tier, and it's not something I'm used to doing. But, when I looked at it, I'm like, Elijah Moore and DK Metcalf are basically the same thing, and they're probably two ships sailing in opposite directions right now. Look, Metcalf has a great matchup this weekend. Look, he gets a target share of 35.5%, not target share, but targets per route run to Metcalf versus man coverage, 35.5%. It is elite. Now, we need them to get the play volume up, but whenever you look at Seattle Seahawks this weekend, they're actually playing a team that likes to run man and doesn't have a lot of really good man corners in the Texans. So this could be a good spot for DK this week. But I also do really love Elijah Moore. They play against the Saints, who have the 7th most man coverage in the league. Now, he could get shadowed this weekend by Lattimore, but we've seen Lattimore get beat by other good receivers. So I'm not going to be too worried about the matchup. And we know that Moore won't line up against, even with shadow coverage, he won't see Lattimore all the time. So I have them both really close. That's kind of the genesis of why I did the tweet. But I think they're very close. But I kind of lean to Moore just because there's just a little bit more volume coming his way without the competition for targets. Both are bad offenses.
Yeah. I mean, if I can't get a Tyler Lockett 60-yard touchdown this week, it's never going to happen. Anyways, so I want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons because they might have something going on with somebody not named Cordarrelle Patterson, and it's diminutive wide receiver Russell Gage. He's posted back-to-back top 15 wide receiver weeks and commanded a 30% target share this past weekend. Now, that certainly gets the attention of fantasy players everywhere, but my question to you, Mr. McFarland, is can we trust him going forward in our fantasy playoffs? If you plug him in the lineup, because he's put some zeros on the board this year. You're trusting Russell Gage in your lineup with the playoffs on the line?
That's the problem, though. Like every receiver has put some zeros out there. Not
Laviska Shenault. He'll always at least get you half a point.
He will always get you. That's a good point. Sorry. I stand corrected. Yeah, I feel good about Gage. I mean, when I look at it, targets per route run versus man coverage, 27%. That's freaking elite. It's right there with Kyle Pitts at 29%, Cordarrelle Patterson's at 30%. So the thing I like is they consolidate everything through really these three players. Now, we will get Hayden Hurst back here sometime at some point, and that will matter a little bit. They were utilizing him, so that could take a little bit away from Gage. But also against zone coverage, he's doing fine. Like it's more spread out across zone, which most teams do. Patterson's their lead target against zone, but Gage and Pitts are right behind Patterson. So yeah, I like Russell Gage. He's playing really well. Like I have to take my route threshold down, but when I do, because he was injured for the first part of the year, but when I do and I move it down to like the 230 range, I think he's at like 240 routes if I remember correctly. But whenever I lower it, and you're getting a smaller sample size, so I mean, it's not worth as much. But Gage, as far as beating single man coverage to get open, he's doing it more than any other NFL player right now, any other receiver. Now, again, smaller sample, but still, like all you can do is go with the data that you have. And Russell Gage has played really well. He's really surprised me. He's a guy that's flashed in the past. He just needs to stay away from the hurdle button. He can't be hurdling, Brian. He's just got to stick with the spin move. The hurdle, stay away from the hurdles, Russell. Like I've seen 2 really bad ones from you.
He's on bye this week, but Devontae Parker returned for the Miami Dolphins. And I mean, remember, this guy was a really good fantasy wide receiver for a couple of years. He did return this week, ran route on 71% of the plays and commanded a 13% target share. Just throwing it out there. If you need a depth guy, you got multiple flexes or something, Devontae Parker is available. So
Parker will be a wide receiver 4 with a chance to move up. So basically put him down. Let me look at my ranks. Like find the group of guys that I would put him with, right? He's going to be down there by Julio Jones, Tyler Boyd, Kenny Galladay, Cortland Sutton, Christian Kirk, Michael Gallup, all these guys, where he can be the 2 or the 3 on his team, typically probably not going to be the 1, but he could catch touchdowns. The beauty for him is that the Dolphins are really pass heavy. Now they've ran a little more over the last couple of weeks, but overall on the season, they throw the ball above the NFL average in every single game scenario, whether they're leading by 4 points or more, within 3 points, or behind by 4 points or more. They throw the ball above the NFL average.
I streamed Tua this week, and he actually came through. Guy doesn't throw the ball more than 4 yards down the field, but throws a lot of completions. So hooray me! All right, so from one current Falcon in Gage to a former one, Julio Jones, who you just mentioned, he's likely going to be back on the field for the Titans. And boy, could they use him. They've been throwing the ball to guys they found working overnights at Target. So my question to you, Dwayne, is do you trust Julio to complete a game in your lineup? So imagine now it's the fantasy semifinals next weekend or whatever. You got Julio in there. Oops, hammy pops. He's done. I want to know what your level of trust is on Julio Jones. I mean, he could get every target on this team, but I don't know if he's going to finish the game.
Yeah, I think the reward is high enough that I'm willing to take the risk because of what you just said. There's no one on the team. Like if Julio has the chance to dominate, the target share, he's not the Julio we used to know, but he's a savvy enough veteran that would it surprise me if he came up with a 10, 12 target game? It wouldn't really at all. The identity of the Titans is still to run the ball. But as long as we have A.J. Brown out and there's really not anyone else that we can look to, I mean, Golden Tate, I guess, will be another week in, assuming he's even still on the roster. I haven't looked up his name, but it feels like Julio could be in a nice spot. And I'm going to assume when they play him that he's 100% healthy. I mean, he's had a full 3 weeks, or it might even be 4 weeks now, to really get better. So, I mean, they've taken it easy on him. I've got him right now for the week. I've got him. And I haven't tightened these rankings completely up. Mostly I've just tiered players, but I've got him in my 4th tier, which is basically like wide receiver 27 through wide receiver 34. So he's somewhere in that tier for me this week. I could end up knocking him out of it and being like just outside. Symbolic, right? Symbolic rankings, Drake. Put him just outside wide receiver 36 just because there is some extra risk. But I think there's enough upside with Julio and a great matchup. Wide receiver strength of schedule, 10 out of 10, according to the PFF metrics. So I like that about Julio this weekend.
Use that promo code HUSTLE, save 25%. I hope you use the Cyber 40 and save 40% for the last 2 weeks. That was a damn good deal, folks. All right. How about Detroit? Now, it's not often we've been talking Detroit, anything outside of their running backs here, but we actually have a pair of wide receivers popping on the scene. Rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC caught the game winner and also saw 12 targets. This week, he faces PFF's second worst graded slot corner in Kyle Fuller. We also have to monitor Josh Reynolds, who, as your article points out, just posted his second consecutive top 36 finish since joining the Lions. If you got to add one of these guys, which one are you claiming?
I don't really want to claim either, just because I've seen. Well, here's the problem: we've seen this from these Lions receivers, right? One will pop up and then they just disappear. We've seen it with Khalif Raymond before the season. We've even seen it earlier. Now Amon-Ra St. Brown, to be fair, never had the kind of finish that he had this weekend, where you get inside the top 6 wide receivers for the week. So it makes it kind of tough. Like I've got them both in that 2 to 5% range as far as fab goes. So it's not like either one of them are high priorities. I just acknowledge that there could be something here. If you want to stash them on your bench, you want to wait and see. I probably lean to just wanting to go with the rookie because I feel like there's the unknown. But I like the fact that Reynolds has played, in the past with Jared Goff, and they seem to have a connection. And I feel like Reynolds is more likely to give you the big play, Drake. But when I look at TJ Hawkinson, he and St. Brown kind of operate in the same area, right? And then you also have the running backs that operate in the same area. So the guy that's the most different, right, is really Josh Reynolds. So I think it's really up to what people want. Like if you're looking more for, hey, I'm just looking for, and maybe the easiest way to say is if you're in a standard format, it's probably easily Reynolds. And if you're in a PPR, I probably slightly lean to St. Brown.
In Denver, now, yes, we saw the Javonte Williams show, and everyone now is saying, oh, Javonte Williams is the RB1 dynasty. And I guess I just found out that Jonathan Taylor retired. But anyways, we want to talk about the wide receivers because Melvin Gordon's going to return. It is what it is with the running backs. Hooray you if you played Javonte this week. But I want to ask you about these wide receivers because Cortland Sutton is dead. Jerry Jeudy just saw a bunch of garbage time targets, and that kind of made him viable this past week. But, I don't want to play any of these Denver guys right now.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, he sucks. Like you've got all these weapons that you could get the ball to, and you're going to check the ball down all the time. He checked the ball down, I don't know, like 25% this weekend. I tweeted about it. I already forgot what the number was, but it was terrible. He leads the league in checkdowns at 11%. You got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and you've got Tim Patrick, all newly minted or you got high draft capital in them, all facing one-on-one matchups all damn game. And you're going to check it down to Javonte Williams every play. Like it's just something's wrong with Teddy. He's not comfortable because normally like he's actually okay against man coverage. He seemed rattled like from the get-go. And that's kind of the Chiefs style of defense, right? Is like just kind of stack everybody up there. They'll run some cover zero on you. They'll leave their corners out there on an island. And Bridgewater just doesn't seem to feel comfortable. And maybe part of it, the blame belongs to the receivers. Maybe he's not comfortable with what they're doing, but he just doesn't seem willing just to give them a shot. You know what I mean? It's like, oh God, it's not there. I'm just going to check it down. So it's problematic. You got a head coach, Vic Fangio, that's a defensive minded guy. So he's fine with not throwing the ball a lot. Hey, let's just keep it close and win it in the last few minutes of the game. So there's a lot of issues going on. We're probably a year away from whatever quarterback comes in that Elway gets in free agency to where we'll be loving all of these receivers next year. And we won't be talking about Teddy Bridgewater anymore. But right now, to your point, it's really hard. I don't know. Like all of these guys, each week, one of them could go off. But we haven't even talked about Noah Fant yet. Like you have 4 mouths to feed in an offense that doesn't want to throw the ball by nature due to the coach, and a quarterback that doesn't really want to give these guys a chance to just go win it.
Now, let me ask you, in your professional opinion here, question here from Brian in Syracuse. I own Jerry Jeudy in a league. I have to start him this week because I've got Devonta Smith on a bye. I'm considering dropping him and picking up a guy like Jarvis Landry. I'm like, I don't think Jerry Jeudy's going to.
So the reason I don't like that, I get it. Like, and it might be the right move. The reason I don't like a move like that is because things are nothing is just about right now, right? Like and I get it. Like you need to win this weekend, but at the same time, like I try to always look at the season at like 2, 3, 4 week periods, 2 to 3, 4 week windows. And a lot can change, man. Like, Jerry Jeudy, like he's getting open against man coverage all the time. You could have Cortland Sutton get hurt. You could have Tim Patrick get hurt. I mean, there's so many things that all of a sudden now you got this talent and you're sitting there and you're staring at Jarvis Landry and you're like, fuck, I got Jarvis Landry and Jerry Jeudy's on this other dude's team. And he's about to light my ass up. Like that's the problem, right? So, and you don't want to stumble over that all the time. And sometimes it's the right decision to go ahead and just go pick up Landry and go for it. But Jeudy, this is a second-year, first-round receiver that we've seen, him getting open. So it's like I'm probably just going to stick it out with Jerry Jeudy in that case. Because guess what? Jarvis Landry is also just as likely to give you a big turd. And he doesn't carry the upside of Jerry Jeudy. So I'm going to rank Jarvis Landry probably slightly ahead of Jerry Jeudy this week in my rankings. But if you told me I had to carry one for the next 3 games, I'm carrying Jerry Jeudy.
Appreciate that. I will pass that along to our caller. Let's do a little tight end speed round here. All right. So
speed round. I'm terrible at speed round. Let's do it.
Yeah, I know. So the next 20 minutes here on tight ends. So Logan Thomas went down. And RSJ, our buddy Ricky Seals-Jones, it looks like he could come back from an injury and step back into this lead role for the football team. What are your thoughts on Ricky Seals-Jones as a pickup?
I probably want to avoid playing him this week, but I like him as a potential pickup. Now, we know Logan Thomas didn't suffer the ACL, or at least that was the last I had read. So he's not out for the season. We don't know how long he'll be out, or at least, again, I haven't read that. But Ricky Seals-Jones, I do like him. He's going to see plenty of routes. I think he can get 15, 20% of the targets in any given week. I just don't trust him this first week back.
Tyler Conklin is going to see an expanded role in the pass game for the Vikings with Adam Thielen out. Is he worthy of a pickup and maybe a spot start against the Steelers in maybe a game that could be high scoring on Thursday night?
I like him. Yeah. Conklin will be inside my top 12, low end tight end one this week.
David Njoku landed his ass on the COVID list. So Austin Hooper might be the only game in town for the Browns this week in their game against the Ravens. What do you think about Austin Hooper if he's the only tight end in Cleveland?
Is Harrison Bryant hurt?
Didn't he get hurt a few weeks ago?
Maybe. I lose track of the Browns tight ends because they have 27.
Yeah, because they love playing 12.
So, yeah, they don't mean 12 personnel as in 12 personnel. They mean literally they want to bring 12 tight ends on the field at one time. They give a new meaning to 12.
Yeah, I'm reading right here. Harrison Bryant's likely out this week too.
Okay, then yes, then I like Hooper because he has the chance to be he could actually lead the team in targets. It'll be him or Landry. Maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones is healthy. They need somebody healthy on the outside just to freaking push the safety off the top. You know what I mean? So that's really what Donovan Peoples-Jones's duty is. So yeah, I mean, if that's the case, it'll be hard for me to not have Hooper. Probably low end tight end 1, worst case, high end tight end 2.
James O'Shaughnessy, maybe the best pass option. Well, not maybe. He is the best pass catching option in Jacksonville. Fire him up if you need him, I guess.
More of an I guess. Probably have him ranked around 18, 19 this week. Not a really good matchup against the Titans. 9.1 PPR points given up per game to opposing tight ends. I mean, I've seen worse, but not much worse.
What a letdown this week from my guy Foster Moreau. He's coming out here. He's running all the same routes that Darren Waller is supposed to run. And just this end of this story. Derek Carr sucks. So 3 targets. He caught 1 ball for 34 yards. Foster Moreau did against the football team. Now, Darren Waller, they're saying he's day-to-day. God, I hope he plays this week against Kansas City in a game that, the Raiders always play Kansas City tough, always. And it's a game you're going to have to score points. So, again, light a candle, say a prayer, hope Darren Waller's back. But if
it's fine, man. I've low-key come around on Derek Carr. Like, I actually think he's good.
Oh, he's terrible.
The more I watch him, I think you're off on that. But
no,
I get it. A lot of people don't like Derek Carr. Like, he'll throw the ball down the field now. I mean, he's highly accurate. Look, I'm not saying he's a perfect quarterback, but I think he's workable. This probably says more about Foster Moreau than it does about Derek Carr, because if Foster Moreau was truly Darren Waller, like Derek Carr supported Darren Waller for how long? He's supporting freaking Hunter Renfrow right now. So, I mean, it's not like Foster Moreau's running 50 yards, down the field. It's not like this is like Henry Ruggs get him the ball. I think this probably says more about Moreau. I think the other thing that this tells me, like looking at Moreau, like they didn't use more 12 personnel. Actually, their alternate personnel package last week to keep Hunter Renfrow on the field was to go 20. So for those of you that don't know what 20 is, that's actually 2 running backs, 0 tight ends. Get Foster Moreau's ass off the field and let's have the 2 backs out there and have Hunter Renfrow running around in the slot. So Moreau, I don't know what for sure is going on with him, but he didn't see the 80 to 90% of routes that we like to see from that we were used to with Darren Waller. I'm not saying Moreau can't be any good. He'll be high end tight end too. I was off of him for the most part anyway, just with how much people were just in love with Moreau, and everybody picked him up and started him against me. Ha ha, suckers.
All right, we got Syracuse leading 6th-ranked Villanova at the half. So let's get some upgrades, downgrades.
Excellent. Let's break that game down.
Okay, let's go. Now we're talking. I'm the host here. I'm taking over the show. All right, so
you will be the analyst as well.
Yes, let's
I'll just go get a beer.
Upgrade Leonard Fournette. I mean, he is just now he looks like Elvin Kamara out there. He's like leading the NFL and passes to running backs, and Giovanni Bernard is an afterthought. It's just the Lenny show. And again, folks, this is why you need to pick up Ronald Jones in case something ever happens to Big Len. But man, Big Lenny down the stretch, he's RB1 every single week.
Yeah, I mean, I moved him. He's one of these players. There's a few that it happens with that you just keep moving them up. Like they keep getting these upgrades, but each data point is just stronger and stronger. So whenever you look at Leonard Fournette, the worry used to be, right, is that, well, you got a three-way backfield. And then it became, well, no matter what, if they get ahead, they'll give some carries to Jones, but they'll let Fournette have the passing downs, and it kind of insulates him. Oh, they get behind, they just won't give Jones his touches, but they'll get Gio Bernard involved. And so that was the next phase after the first phase of early in the season of the three backs. And then now recently, it's just like, Ronald Jones, Gio Bernard, we don't want you guys on the field. In fact, if you don't want to show up for game day, it's okay. We're just going to roll with Leonard Fournette. And that's where we're at. I mean, Leonard Fournette's playing 81% of the snaps, 87% of the snaps, 61% of the rushing attempts, 72% of the rushing attempts. And this is the huge part. Routes. 79% of the time and 77% of the time Tom Brady has dropped back to pass in the last two games. Leonard Fournette has been in a route, and that's huge. Targets per route run over the last two games, 28 and 21%. Like, these are just huge numbers. Short down and distance, 100%. 2-minute offense, 100%. Didn't run the 2-minute offense last week, but the week before that they did, and it was 100%. Long down and distance, 88% of the work to Fournette, 75% of the work to Fournette. So he is an every down back playing in arguably the number one offense in the NFL. He is a top 5 back the rest of the way, probably going to have plenty of finishes in the top 2, top 3.
Somebody else who's on the uptick is a guy that we're not really fond of.
And to echo your thing real quick, Jones is an absolute mustache. You got to find a way, if you can, to get him on the roster. He won't get the same treatment as Fournette, but even if he gets it 60-70% in this offense, he's going to be a mid-range RB2. So, like, Jones should be, if you're playing a really small league, I get it. You'll just try to beat the person of the waiver when it happens. But think of it. The other thing I always think of, Drake, is if this player went down, what on next Monday or Tuesday, how much fab would I have to spend to get their backup?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a great question to ask yourself. I'll promise you it'll be everything to get Ronald Jones if Leonard Fournette went down this weekend. It will be everything you have. And you probably don't have enough because someone else in your league will have more.
I thought you were going to echo my sentiments about Derek Carr sucking, but yeah, I mean, add Ronald Jones too.
We'll work on that. We'll move towards that. I used to echo those sentiments, but it's like I'm coming around a little bit. Not saying he's great. I just don't think he's as bad as everybody says.
How about Josh Jacobs? We've got no Kenyon Drake anymore.
Oh, yeah.
My brother from another mother, he's out for the season. And you've got Josh Jacobs now. He's playing all the snaps. He's actually getting the ball thrown to him. Now, this offense is an unmitigated disaster because they don't have any coaches on this team. I mean, once Gruden's gone, it's kind of over with. But they, in that Gruden world, they loved Kenyon Drake. They loved, who's the other third down back?
Peyton Barber.
All
Jalen
these other
Richard
guys.
missed the game last week.
Richard, yeah.
So.
But it's Jacobs time, baby.
Yeah. We'll have to keep an eye on Richard. What's going to happen with him this week? I haven't looked at the latest today, but Jacobs, he could still give some of the passing down work up. But here's the thing. What I like about this, and we don't want a player to get injured, so, prayers up to Kenyon Drake.
Depending on
with Jacobs, with Jacobs, we had already seen him starting to take over more of the routes. We had seen him starting to get more responsibility in the 2-minute offense here and there, starting to expand the long down and distance usage. It had been a little kind of erratic, but we were seeing him get more than what we had seen early in the season. The key thing for him now is just to stay healthy. But last week, 85% of the snaps, 93% of the rushing attempts, 80% of the routes, 24% of the targets. And listen, the last 3 weeks, he's had 28%, 11%, and 24% of the targets. So since they've lost the deep threat in Henry Ruggs, they've just started throwing more underneath to their backs. Even when you get Darren Waller back, I think you're still going to be in a nice spot with Josh Jacobs in the passing game, getting a lot of the short down and distance work, most of the long down and distance last week, 67%, played 92% of the 2-minute offense. And here's the beauty. The 2 weeks before, he had 73% and 100% of the 2-minute offense. So I think what happens here, Jalen Richard will probably take over when he plays some of the long down and distance work, maybe limit Jacobs to 50, 60% of that. 2-minute offense probably sticks with Jacobs, and you're going to see him handle probably 60 to 70% of the routes, which will still be good, is still elite, really. And then rushing attempts, my guess is he'll be 70 to 75, 65, 75%. May see Peyton Barber active on game days, spelling him a little more in the running game just because he's going to be so active in the passing game. And also Peyton Barber in deeper formats is actually a worthy stash at this point, because if Jacobs went down, it's going to be all Barber, right? Mm-hmm. And so volume is still king. So at this point, Peyton Barber does become a nice kind of RB5 stash play for those of you that play like in deeper roster formats.
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have Jacobs in and again, like I haven't tightened these all the way down, but Jacobs is in my top 7 this week.
Oh, hey. Deontay Johnson was looking great too. I mean, Jesus Christ, every pass goes to him in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Deontay, the utilization, everything's been there all year. It's just everything hasn't clicked exactly. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, the guy has had 30% or more of the targets in 7 of 11 games. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. Let me hit you with some downgrades here. And Ryan in our chat wants to ask about the Pollard-Zeke committee. Everybody saw that game the other night where Pollard just looked shot out of a cannon and Zeke looks banged up. I mean, what's the word in Dallas? Is there any thought to sitting Zeke down at all, or does he not want to sit because, you know, Jerry knows he's paying him a boatload, and, you know, if he can go out there and pass block, we want him out there to pass block? I mean, what's going on here?
I think Zeke genuinely wants to play. You know, I can't tell you like what his motives are. So I think they're going to keep running him out there, but I downgraded him in the utilization report today just because we're at the point now, though, where it's obvious, like it's a true time split. Like it's a 60-40 kind of thing. Zeke and then Pollard's the 40%. And I think kind of the latest is the way they plan on keeping Zeke fresh and managing him is just by limiting his workload. And then the other thing that we're hearing is they don't want to overexpose Pollard either. So that's the fear of you shut Zeke down and you potentially get Pollard dinged up and you lose an explosive player in the backfield down the stretch. So my thought is, like, have they not read that, like, running backs, you can kind of use different ones and it doesn't matter? It's like, let Corey Clement, let Rico Dowdle, like, let someone else play Zeke's role for a few weeks. Let Pollard be maybe 50% and have one of these other guys be 50%. But it is what it is. It's a 60-40 split right now. I don't know that Zeke can get healthy. I'm not a doctor continuing to play, or if this is just going to nag him all season. My gut says it's going to be a nagging injury for the rest of the season. But the bigger problem, right, is just that the Cowboys running game overall, it's not just the running backs. It's the offensive line is not playing the way that it was early in the season. Like, they've had to rotate guys around a lot lately. Now, some of it's been COVID related. They have some different things going on, but they're just not executing the same way. And neither is the passing game, really. Dak's been off for like 4 or 5 games. Like, I mean, he had the one really great game against Atlanta. But overall, Dak's he's rusty. He just doesn't look right. I don't know if there's something still going on. He's got a compensatory injury. I don't know if it's his leg, if it's his shoulder, if he's just got other problems. You know, a lot of times with quarterbacks, we don't ever hear about it, right? It's not something that they're going to share in the media. So it's the Cowboys offense, you know, they just need to, part of it is really that they've got to turn the corner and get going. And then I think if they were back to being the offense we saw like over the first, 6-7 games, like Zeke could probably still come through for you, Drake, because he'd have a chance to score a couple touchdowns a game. He'd at least have a shot at it, right, from inside the 5. He could probably save the value for you. But right now, they're not getting all of these, opportunities. They're not spending as much time in the opponent's end of the field, especially in that striking distance where you can score touchdowns. And so it kind of makes it more Pollard's world because he's the guy that's more likely to rip off the big play to score the touchdown. So I downgraded Zeke this week to a running back 2 status. Still in my high end for now, but like this week I've got Zeke at running back. Oh man, gotta see.
260.
No, I've got him at 18 right now. Which I'm looking in front of him. Like, you tell me which one of these players you want to start Zeke over. Elijah Mitchell, Alvin Kamara, if he plays, James Conner, Aaron Jones, Cordarrelle Patterson, Nick Chubb, Antonio Gibson, Javonte Williams. Like, you're probably not.
I can't believe there's that many healthy running backs left.
Yeah, the way it seems like they would all be gone. Like, James Conner could be one because, I mean, we could see Chase Edmonds back, right? And if we see that, Conner could drop down. I might move him down there right next to Zeke. Then they kind of become similar because they're sharing the workload. So yeah, Zeke's just kind of in a tough spot, man. And I think until we see him healthy, Pollard is, really an upgrade. I'm never going to put him like an RB2 status, even though that's where he grades out. I'm always going to have him as that high end RB3 that could give you an RB2 finish, and in a great week could give you that RB1 finish.
We had a question here about if Jonathan Taylor goes down, what does the Indy backfield look like? And they actually started getting another kid work this week, and he scored a touchdown. It seems like Marlon Mack, they don't have much interest in playing him anymore.
Yeah, so they did use Desmond Patmon, Patmon, sorry. And but he didn't get a carry. It was all receiving stuff. So how did he even score the touchdown? Do you know? Like I saw the touchdown the ball on red zone.
He took the ball across the goal line.
Okay, excellent. Good breakdown. Just for whatever reason, idea. I don't. And
it was a garbage time play. Wentz was out, I think.
Yeah, I may be wrong. I may have pulled something wrong here, because I'm just not showing a rushing attempt, but he may have had one. But anyway, Patmon, he was out there for 24% of the snaps. I know that. And then you had Hines. It looks like he was playing more of the Hines role, though, because Nyheim Hines's snaps dropped from 36% to 19%, where Jonathan Taylor really stayed steady. I haven't broken down when Patmon got those snaps, but I kind of still believe, though, that Mac, if again, kind of back to the question, Jonathan Taylor goes down and he can't, right? Because we're on bye. But if Jonathan Taylor went down and on Monday, what's the back everybody's, probably going to be guided to? I still think Marlon Mack would be the player I would point people to the most. I know he hasn't been active. I know all these things, but if all of a sudden there's snaps for him and he can play, it kind of validates why they even re-signed him. You know what I mean? So I do think that Mack would be the handcuff. That one's not as locked, right, as it would be for Ronald Jones, but I would lean to Mack.
Looking some things up here.
I think Nyheim Hines gets more work in that case too, Drake, because we've basically seen him, for all intents and purposes, like what we used to see with him, he's kind of been eliminated.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Just keep playing Carson Wentz so we can get our first round.
Play Jonathan Taylor
in Philly. Yeah, exactly. Deion Jackson, that's the kid who scored the touchdown. This past weekend. Jackson. Yes. So let's hit a couple of questions here before we get out of here. We always appreciate you guys who hang out with us on Thursday nights, whether it's YouTube or Twitch, which I'll be honest, we don't know how to use, but someone's going to teach us one of these days. But thank you. We hope that we've been an aid to your fantasy season. I don't know if we've helped my seasons as much, but we're hopefully helping yours. So Dwayne, let's hit some questions here from our good buddies. Our buddy John asks, would you rather have Bateman, AJ Green, or Van Jefferson rest of season?
Van Jefferson. It's pretty easy too.
Yeah, I'm going to take Van Jefferson.
Bateman got a downgrade this week, folks. He wasn't even out there 40% of the routes. So he's just a stash play. You can't have him in your lineups right now.
A lot of Van Jefferson talk here. Justin Soto, he's with us all the time. Appreciate you hanging out with us, Justin. Odell or Van Jefferson this weekend and moving forward in PPR?
Van Jefferson, I give the slight lean just because he's been out there more of the routes both weeks and they've been pretty close in targets. There's a chance that it's still Beckham, once healthy. My guess is these two guys are kind of going to joust back and forth the rest of the way, Drake. And, one's going to give you a big play one week. The next week, it's going to be the other guy. The good news is the Rams offense is good enough that you can also have weeks where they all get big plays.
How about this one? Casey Campbell asking, is Laquan it's week 14.
Sadly, I do think the answer to the question is yes, and I still don't want him on my fantasy team.
Yeah, Laquan Treadwell, the number one wide receiver in Jacksonville. So, I'd rather search. Who would you rather own? Laquan Treadwell is the de facto 1 in Jacksonville, or Brashad Perriman as the 3 in Tampa?
I would probably take Perriman as the 3 in Tampa for 1 week versus knowing I get Laquan Treadwell as the number 1 in Jacksonville for the rest of the season. I just don't. You're never going to feel good rolling that out. Now, look, some of you folks play in these 14, 16 teamers. And Drake, I know you have some of these where you're naming the players you have to start. And so
OJ.
Kind of say some of this tongue in
my
cheek,
watch
like
list.
in that kind of a league, like I get it. Like Laquan Treadwell is like, it's a real thing. So, you know, at least he's out there. I mean, good luck getting them to pass the ball over 100 yards, but whatever.
Our friend Kurt Miller on YouTube asks, half-point PPR, Melvin Gordon, Kareem Hunt, or DJ Moore in the flex this week?
DJ Moore.
All right, let's keep it
Next
rolling
would
here.
be Kareem Hunt.
How would you rank these waiver wire wide receivers in full PPR? It's A-Rob, so it must be Allen Robinson. So the answer there is no. MVS and Gage.
Dear God. I would rank Gage first, but it's funny to say Gage over Allen Robinson.
Well,
But
yeah,
look,
it's terrible.
you just got to go with it. But it would be Gage, then Robinson, then MVS for me.
Appreciate you hanging out with us, John. Let's see. I'll pull a few up more here.
This one says MVS or Westbrook. I'm assuming that's D.D. Westbrook. I would start MVS.
My God. Yeah, he's playing in the slot now.
Oh, he's saying Westbrook Akini.
Oh.
I would still start MVS.
I know
D.D.
Westbrook's
going to play. He is playing the slot. He is playing the slot for the Vikings now.
The Vikings, yeah. See.
Yeah.
Let's see. How would you rank? That's the same thing. How would you rank Allen Robinson, Gage, MBS? That's the Devonta Smith question. All right, let's head down here to the bottom.
Get as many of these in as you can.
Yeah.
If you folks are still here and you have questions, throw them at us. We'll do rapid fire here for a couple minutes.
All right. Half-point PPR, Claypool or OBJ this week?
We've got to keep an eye on Claypool. I know yesterday it was only a simulated practice, right? And he wouldn't have practiced with the toe issue, and it kept him out of the game. This past week, he was only out there for under 70% of the routes. But I would still lean Claypool if he suits up. Like you've got the Vikings giving away 41.9 points to opposing wide receivers. And you've got the opposite, right, for what OBJ is dealing with against the Cardinals, 33. So I would slightly lean to Claypool. I've got him about 7 spots apart in the ranks with Claypool ahead. Now, if Claypool's out, then fine, you just pivot, you go with Beckham.
Trey Sermon, any value in Dynasty, or is that ship sailed? I don't think so.
I mean, he's still a 49er back. You know, he's a rookie. They don't have a lot of draft capital in him, so he's got to turn it around quickly. But a lot of people that we like a lot really love Trey Sermon coming out. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a buy low, but I mean, buy low. Like, don't overpay.
We got guys looking for defense help here. I would say if you're looking for these defensive helps, check out like pff.com, use our promo code, or DM our buddy Ryan Reynolds, NFL. He's a good friend of ours, does a lot of DFS stuff. He put out a whole article about that for defenses down the stretch. AJ Dillon or Daryl Henderson from our buddy Matthew Miles.
I would play Daryl Henderson, assuming that he's healthy. I still think Henderson's the lead back. I think Sony Michel's going to get a little more work. It's just a matter of, is Henderson going to be healthy? But I have Henderson slightly ahead of A.J. Dillon, much closer than they normally would be in the ranks.
And people want to know.
There was another Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon question too.
People want to know about this situation with Aaron Jones, his injuries and the bye week, and A.J. Dillon's kind of coming on strong here. So I think whichever guy you've got, I think you can play either guy. To me, this is sort of now a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt situation where they're both going to score fantasy points for you. It's just whoever gets in the end zone is really going to come through.
Yeah, I think Aaron, I like that. I mean, I kind of was looking at it more like a Javonte Williams / Melvin Gordon, not quite Chubb Hunt, but probably slightly, somewhere in between those two. I have Aaron Jones at RB16 on the week. I've got AJ Dillon at RB25. I do think it's a week that you can use both players. It's a 12.5 point favorite for the Packers, in the spread, 28 implied points on the week, 7.6 out of 10 running back strength of schedule. So I think if there is a week that you can use both backs, this is the week you can fire it up. I know the Bears show they're only giving away 22.4 points per game in a PPR to opposing backs. But a lot of the defensive players that were holding things intact, they're gone.
Someone just hit you with the Dwayne looks like Bob Ross emoji, which I don't know if he knows the inside joke there. And I get the Drake looks like a puppy dog with a sailor hat. which I'll take that. Okay.
I think I like yours better. No, my daughter loves Bob Ross. So, yeah.
Odds of Cam Newton being a top 10 QB rest of the season.
I think there's a shot just because of his legs, but I mean, he just can't have another disastrous game, right? He just can't get benched for just being a complete, pile of turds. So that's the big problem for Cam. As long as, he can avoid the big bad game, like he could be okay. Like he can have a bad game. He just can't have like the terrible game.
People asking about Chase Edmonds in this question here. Chase Edmonds or Pollard for the Cowboys?
Interestingly, I think they're in very similar situations now. I have a feeling that James Conner is going to be more the Zeke now and get about 60% of the way. This is just a feeling. It could go back to the other way. But the way I look at it, James Conner really is a better complement to Kyler Murray than Chase Edmonds, And now you can just really put Edmonds back in his passing down role. Let Conner really handle, more of the rushing attempts. But this week, I would definitely stick with Pollard. I've got Edmonds just below Pollard. I've got Pollard 3 spots. And again, these are going to tighten up, but I've got him 3 spots above Chase Edmonds.
I like we get defense questions here. Chargers, Packers, or Saints defense this week. We've got the
you
Chargers
got the Jets versus the Saints. You got the Chargers versus the Giants at home.
Yeah.
And the Giants have to travel across to play. And then what was the other one?
Or the Saints.
Well, I already did the Saints
at the
Jets.
Jets.
I thought there was a third one.
Oh, there is. There's the Packers.
Oh, Packers. Are they at home versus Chicago?
Yeah.
Yes, they are. I would take the Packers first, then the Chargers, and then the Saints.
You got good options all around there. So
yeah, those are all great, and any one of them could lead the way.
Let's see. A couple more here before we get out of here. Sony Michel or Deshaun Jackson in a PPR flex?
Ugh.
I mean, if Daryl Henderson's healthy, you can't play Sony Michel.
Yeah, I agree. But man, I wish I could find something better than Djax right now, just because of the injury.
Yeah, we just talked about a ton of wide receivers. Go get one of those Detroit guys.
Yeah, I think I would play any of those guys over Michel if Henderson is active. I'll have Michel ranked higher than normal, but I don't have a ton of confidence in it.
Here's a great one. Look at this one. Higgins over Jamar Chase rest of season.
I think they deserve to be ranked right next to each other. But look, I'm not going to argue with anyone that says this. Like, I know we all love Jamar Chase, and this isn't a knock on him, but T. Higgins has been great. T. Higgins' his targets per route run altogether are higher than Jamar Chase. And that's kind of the equalizer stat, right? Looking at which players get looked to the most when they're on the field. And then against man coverage, he gets more targets than targets per route run versus Chase, and against zone. So really every single scenario, T. Higgins is seeing more looks than Jamar Chase. Now, again, we talk about this all the time, Drake. What happens? 3 to 4 weeks, defenses all of a sudden focus on someone else. T. Higgins, more attention is coming. It's about to be coming his way. And that could repop, a guy like Jamar Chase back free. I think they're right there neck and neck. The biggest thing I see is T. Higgins has just been underrated. He's been underappreciated. Now he's getting his due. I don't know that we have to make it about Chase versus Higgins. Mm-hmm. I think we love both players. They should be ranked right next to each other. They probably both need to be in the top 15, 16 every week the rest of the way.
Let me see. Here's a real interesting one kind of to close on. Which preseason take are you most proud of, and which are you embarrassed of? I can start off here with my Laviska Shenault takes. I was very low on Laviska Shenault. I was very high on Jalen Hurts. Not that Hurts is anything special. Everybody was in on him. I think as a show, I don't think we were low on Jonathan Taylor, but we didn't say he's going to be the running back one.
I would say too low on Jonathan Taylor, not giving enough consideration to Leonard Fournette. Like, those are two huge ones. And at Fournette, like I was even just thinking about this one today, and you just kind of rethink through your process, right? Well, what's the process? We got a pass heavy team that's got 3 backs. We know Tom Brady's been on teams that utilize 3 backs. We saw them rotate them throughout the season last year. Lenny got hot in the playoffs, but we just didn't know for sure. And guess what? It was a committee to start the season, and Rojo screwed it up like usual. I should have counted on Rojo screwing it up. That's the thing that I miscalculated on. But even then, like seeing Gio Bernard just brush to the side. So there's so many factors that go into these things. But the way I look at it now, Drake, the thing I take away is like elite offense. Why not just take a shot on the back, go ahead and have a few shares, right, of Leonard Fournette, especially if you're getting them in the 9th or the 10th round. Jonathan Taylor, it's just a talent thing. The thing that kept me from him was Hines, and they had just repaid Hines, and Hines is really good at what he does. And guess what? They're not trying to use Jonathan Taylor like Nyheim Hines. And look, there's been luck for Jonathan Taylor too. The Colts have all of a sudden, they've turned into a team that can play the game with all these leads, so like they're in the top 5 of the league of, as far as the least amount of trailing plays. So this could totally be turned on its head if all of a sudden, the Colts were losing every game. But at the same time, like it's just a talent thing with Jonathan Taylor. You could make the argument you're starting to see the value, you're starting to see the talent for Antonio Gibson the same way, right, that we saw for Taylor. But it took an injury to McKissick to really unlock it. So, and then most proud of
people are leaving comments here. They say we were pretty good with the Mixon, the Swift, Henderson in the dead zone.
I think we hit a lot of those.
Hooray us.
Right. My biggest miss, honestly, like that cost me the most money personally, Trey Sermon. I had Trey Sermon on, man.
Yeah.
I bet I had $2,000 to $3,000 worth of Trey Sermon, maybe more, on all these rosters, taking him in the 6th round aggressively, like every time I could. Now, I've overcome it with a lot of those teams, and on some of those, I was even able to get Elijah Mitchell after the first week. Another big regret. I'm better at regrets, I guess, not being more aggressive with Cordarrelle Patterson. But again, when I look at it, I'm like, Cordarrelle Patterson, like he's been this guy for how long? And now all of a sudden, I'm really supposed to believe that, like, he's the dude?
You should follow me. You should follow me on Twitter, Dwayne. I was talking about that week 1.
I know we talked about him, and I remember I feel bad. I told people, look, like, fine, you want to go spend 25% of your fab or whatever, somewhere around there is what I said. Go ahead, but it's not going to be sustainable like what he's doing. And again, it's just he's a 10th year veteran. We've got 9 years worth of this guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's this. That's why I was half joking, but like Arthur Smith is like a freaking genius, to unlock Cordarrelle Patterson. I was too high on Aaron Jones, but part of that's been injury. He was actually getting the exact role that I thought he would have out of the gate. Actually, he was getting more, and that may have been part of his problem. They were like just giving him so much early. Who else? I feel good about Alexander Madison. I feel good. I'm just looking at the ranks right now. I feel good about Deontay Johnson. Feel good about a lot of the younger receivers that I was really high on. Was too low on Marquise Brown. I started off high on Marquise Brown. I was higher than everyone, and I let myself get talked out of him. And I still ended up with quite a bit, but I could have had so much more. I did the same thing to myself with Deebo Samuel. Let myself get talked out of it. I'm usually pretty good about not letting myself get talked out of stuff, but I always want to be open, right? I want to be open-minded to things too. So those are two that I felt really good about early on. And then I just backed off, and I don't think I had them ranked too low. I just wasn't drafting them enough. I didn't have enough conviction, around them. Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of takes I kind of give, because like who I'm drafting, like really tells me like who I felt the most confident about, or maybe not quite as like with where I was drafting them. I'm trying to think like who's my favorite pick that like, I nailed. I'll have to think about it more. Honestly, I haven't thought too much about this yet. I will be here in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to do a couple of articles on it, like just because I love going back through the process and rethinking through those things.
And there's just so many injuries, and you can't account for that. When people say like, "Oh, you missed on," supposedly, Raheem Mostert or a guy got hurt. I mean, you can't account for that.
What's interesting though? Like, I don't get a lot of flack for that. I really don't. And I don't think you do either. So one of the things is just a big appreciation to like this, to this group of people that, share this time with us, and to the audience. And I think we try to be open with why we think what we think. And I think when you do that for people, and then they can basically think for themselves and say, okay, I either agree with that logic or I don't, right? We never on this show are just rehashing crap like so many others. And look, there's a lot of really good shows out there, but a lot of shows are just really reaggregating all this information they've heard and just spitting it out again. And so I think that why people are maybe more forgiving with us is that, we really walk them through the whole process of how we get to where we are, all the different angles that we've considered, which is why our shows run long, because, we share so much information like that. So I'm just very thankful, to everybody. Occasionally I will get someone coming at me like that. And I'm like, whatever, look, I gave you bad advice. But for the most part, I don't get a lot of that. And so I'm very, very thankful for that. Even through all the PFF stuff that I do, I don't get a lot of hate DMs. I don't get a lot of hate on Twitter. I don't get a lot of hateful emails. Mostly people are really cool and, understanding. They just want to understand your process.
Yeah, you blocked my burner account, so you don't get any of those hate tweets anymore. Yeah, folks, if you're out there and you enjoyed the show and helped you at all this year, just consider giving us a nice review on iTunes and, like and subscribe and comment on the show on YouTube and whatever platform you listen on. God knows there's so many these days. Just, help the show out here. If you leave a nice 5-star review for us on iTunes, I'm sure it helps us, because we consider ourselves sort of the best kept secret in fantasy football. And, being a radio guy that I am, I always love to look at those podcast rankings and I see, hey, there's the fantasy footballers and there's, the ESPN show and there's our pals at ETR. And I'm like, where the hell are we? Our shit's as good as that. We should be up there, but who cares? We got people that are winning.
There's a lot of good shows out there, and there's a lot of people that have been doing this for a long time, so I'm thankful for the audience we have, and we'll keep, pushing to make the show better. I'm constantly over the last several weeks, hopefully folks notice it. I put a lot of it out on Twitter to see how people react to it, to see what people like. I like all of it, but I don't have to put it all into an article. I can know some stuff on the back end, right, and just use it to help with my rankings and things like that. But I'm constantly trying to find ways to bring new information to light that I think matters, right? That's the key, finding the things that actually correlate back to mattering for fantasy football and for football in general. So I think there's just we're only there's so much more that we're going to get to do even next year, because I'll have a full off season with Pro Football Focus and time to truly think about this stuff. Whereas before I had an everyday gig, and then I was doing this on the side. So this off season is just going to be a huge opportunity to take everything to a whole new level, multiple levels up. And I'm super excited about it. I have a lot of ideas, talking with the editors and teams at, PFF, talking with folks about the different tools, there's so much going on that I'm excited about. And I can't put it all out there yet, because I don't know what we're going to do for sure. But all I can tell you is we're going to do a lot. And a lot of that will bleed over to, this podcast and the things that you and I want to do as well.
I got to get HR over there at PFF to unblock me on Twitter and give me a full-time gig. They're like, stop drinking and talking about college basketball on the air, jackass. So folks, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight. I'm going to go watch Syracuse choke this one away, and good luck in week 14. I know it's a must win for me and Dwayne when, moving on to the Scott Fish Bowl and our high stakes leagues. And, we hope you win, and we hope you come back next week and we'll be talking about fantasy football playoffs. Yep. Talking about playoffs here on the Fantasy Football Hustle. Hope you enjoyed
next week,
folks.
You have to come back with your best Paul McCartney voice, and I will bring John Lennon, since I know we've both been through 10 hours of Get Back.
Oh yeah. I got to hope my wedding, my family, I told you this off the air. My wife and her father are such Beatles fans. At my wedding, all the tables were themed after Beatles songs and albums. So people, you'd go around, somebody would be at the Let It Be table. They'd be at the My Guitar Gently Weeps table. And it was very cool, and, that's what I watched over the Thanksgiving holiday with those guys, because I enjoy it as a fan of music and process. As someone like me, as a journalist and someone who enjoys the creative process of writing and seeing how creative people do things, that's what's the best thing about Get Back, was being that fly on the wall to say, all right, how do these guys who are so smart and they're young, these guys are in their early to mid 20s doing this, and they're going out and kicking ass and writing legendary stuff. And that's what you love to see, is just how do they come up with X, Y, and Z to put out the greatness that has stood the test of time. And that's with art. Something can be hot today. You can be the NFT or the crypto or whatever nonsense is out today. Be relevant 50 years later. That's the test of time. That's true art. So yeah, very, very cool Disney show. And
Absolutely.
That's all. All right, folks.
So you'll have
Enjoy
the Paul
yourself.
voice. I'll have the John. All right.
All right. Maybe we'll bring something else, me love. We'll see what happens. I gotta work on
Paul's
it.
kind of got that higher thing in the back of the throat. Anyway, we'll keep
Here,
going.
I'll do my Ringo impression from the show. Ready?
Yeah,
Here's Ringo. How was that? Pretty good, huh?
It was very good. Either saying nothing or sleeping. Yeah.
Exactly. Or smoking. So, all right, folks, take it easy. Remember to never get out hustled. Go Qs.